one of the sponsors for tonight. The water advocacy team came out of Lettuce. You guys got to remember all of these acronyms. The Lawrence Ecology Teams United in Sustainability, which is an interfaith group of Jewish, Catholic, and Protestants that decided we need to walk instead of just talking. And in doing so, we felt like water is the issue that we need to be addressing on the local, regional, and state level, open to all and anybody. So after this meeting tonight, if any of you would like to stay for a moment, we're going to try to gather together. We meet what meets usually on a morning during the week, but we need to check and see if there's another time we need to meet to have you involved, if you want to be involved in that. It's a long-term commitment, both local, state, and regional, because the water issue is such a crisis, needs to be at the same table as mental health, prison reform, and education. Not those aren't important, but just as important as the water crisis. So we are here as what to sponsor this today, and we encourage you to participate if you can. I'm going to introduce in just a moment, though, later, the other sponsor of tonight is the Wakarusa Sierra Club Wakarusa Group, which has certainly been very supportive of our endeavors, not only here, and of course both of us were before when we met and discussed the Tyson issue, which some of you were there for that as well. I do want to, and I want to lift up, and I just want to appreciate, I'm going to ask them to get up and introduce themselves first. I know we have Senator Holland, if you'll stand and introduce yourself. Where are you? There he is. So here he is right back there. Thank you. Do we have any other senators? How about we have any representatives from the House? Anybody here? Stand, please, Boog. That's Boog back there. And a brand new one right here. And also, do we have any city commissioners here? Stand and introduce yourself. Mr. Larson. Any others? County commissioners. I forgot them and I didn't mean to. Nancy, is there others here? Oh, introduce yourself. Yes, okay, thank you for coming, both of you, all of you. We're not going to have each of you stand up and introduce themselves, but the reason we're doing that is to acknowledge your willingness to spend your time here, because this issue is going to take some political prowess, I think, as we move along. Okay, quickly, I'll try to move along. The purpose of this meeting is to educate and hopefully to advocate not only the environmental concerns that are going to be raised here today, but how we might nurture more awareness of issues that arise with regulations as practiced or not practiced by the Kansas Corporation Commission. And so to do this, we're going to hopefully have you listen to and be educated on how you can learn more as well as advocate. Some of you are on a similar list for Tyson, but we're asking you, if you've not already, back there we have a list to put your name and your email and put it on there, because we will want to contact you after this meeting as more things come up that pertain to what we're talking tonight. I want to say that because of that, in the Tyson issue, we were able to inform the other counties that are now being addressed as far as possibly for Tyson chicken, and we have been able to inform them that there is an alternative view than simply buying into the Tyson situation. We don't want to dictate what people need to do, but we feel like people need to be informed. So if you would, and if you hadn't, please remember, and write legibly, please. That is really something. Don't write like I do. Okay. Tonight we have three parts, and I'm going to let Karin in just a moment describe those three parts. We're asking you to have the questions written down, and we'll take questions at the end. We're limiting each panel member to 20 minutes, which is frustrating to them, frustrating to you, but we really would like to do that. And then after that, we'll have everybody here, and we can ask questions and do that through the submission of your questions on the note cards. I think that's it, except for, of course, a very important thing, besides the staying afterwards, is that we have a donation jar back there, and we would appreciate it. We don't run really on a very large budget, but we do need some finances, and we appreciate if you'd like to contribute. It's back there, you'll see it, so that's fine. Let me introduce Karin Pagel-meiners. Karin is the co-chair of the Sierra Club Wakarusa group, which has really been involved in it, has done wonderful hard work. And I know that there's probably, through here, there's a lot of Sierra Club members as well. But I want to thank Karin for the work that she's done. She is going to be the moderator for the panel. And once she's through, then I will help facilitate, as will she, with the questions that come up here. And I'm just going to turn it over to you now.
Okay.
Thanks, Karin.
Okay, we're still waiting for the microphone, so we're just going to have to yell out, I guess. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Welcome. We have a lot to get through, so I don't want to talk very long. We have Sierra Club materials in the back, all free, and our meetings are in the evening. So I'm in charge of evening, Thad's in charge of mornings for meeting times. Okay, on your questions, if you would, in the upper right-hand corner, write the name of the presenter. That will save some time, too. Our first presenter is Amy Adamson, who's going to speak to us about the oil activity that has impacted her family and her neighbors. They are beginning a 5th year of dealing with oil activity on their property. That's led to a lawsuit, a protest with the Kansas Corporation Commission, and 4 years of working with the legislative process to get a law in place to protect others from similar situations. Amy's husband Scott is attending with her, and Scott, as well as a few of their neighbors, will be included in the question and answer portion. So let's welcome Amy.
Good evening. You're quite a big group. I'd like to start by thanking our county commissioner personally, Nancy Thelman, for her support over the last 5 years. I'd like to thank Senator Tom Holland for his continued engagement and follow-up with regard to our situation. I'd like to give a big thank you to John Wilson. I don't think he's here tonight, but he was our state representative and was able to get House Bill 2189 to a hearing, which is very, very important. If you don't get to a hearing, then the bill doesn't get very far. But it's given us the opportunity for our voices to be heard. And I'd like to thank Representative Eileen Horn for picking up where John left off and immediately taking action to ensure that our voices will continue to be heard. I'll start with a little introduction. My name is Amy Adamson, and I'm the daughter of a Union Pacific hoghead, for those of you who know what that means. My family moved to Kansas in 1987, just before my senior year in high school. I graduated from Kansas State University in 1992 with a degree in business management, and have worked for the last 25 years for a telecom company that's headquartered in Kansas. My husband and I have been married for 21 years. We have 2 sons. Blake is 18 and attending Butler County Community College on a scholarship to throw javelin. And our youngest son, Eli, is 14. We're also members of the Lighthouse Baptist Church in Baldwin City. So my purpose in speaking to you tonight is not to drag you through the personal saga of what has happened on the land belonging to our family and to our neighbors, but rather to encourage you to link arms with us in an effort to truly impact change in our state that will protect property against situations like ours, property owners specifically. A situation like ours is one where the gains of the oil industry cause losses for the citizens. In 2001, my husband and I purchased the 5 acres where we built our home. We worked with a local bank and a local builder in Baldwin City, Kansas. There's our house. It's a beautiful park-like setting with huge trees and a creek and an 8-foot waterfall off the back corner of our property. We moved to Baldwin City on purpose. to raise our family in a small community where people know one another and look out for one another. 5 years after building our home, we had the opportunity to purchase the 10 acres right across the fence line. We purchased this primarily because we wanted to maintain our peaceful and quiet homestead. We leased the land to our neighbor for the purpose of grazing cattle and growing hay. So as you can see in this picture, at the top, if you can see, that is the Baldwin City Lake. We're less than a mile from it. On this quarter section, I believe it's called a quarter section, 160 acres, so a quarter section, where we live, there are 8 homes, which you can barely see, but they're in here, up here, and in here. There's one way back here in the woods, one on the corner, one next door. And all of these homes were built within the last 25 years. In January 2013, almost 5 years ago, a new oil operator approached us stating that his stakeholders were going to be making a lot of improvements to the oil operation associated with our land. To start, he built a new access road. It's over 40 feet wide and extends to the back half of our 10 acres. He also built a semi-truck turnaround and a new tank battery site. Combined, these items take up over an acre of our land. All of the fences, the gate, a lot of brush, and several trees were removed. There are also now 4 oil wells and 3 new injection wells on our 10 acres. On the 2 80-acre sections, there are huge ruts, down fences, major sections of woods that are completely gone. There's an oil well very near a water well, an oil well within 35 feet of our neighbor's barn, open pits that were left open for months, and to our knowledge, there are at least 3 old, not properly plugged wells that have leaked injection fluids to the surface, and one still isn't repaired. There was even an oil well spewing oil. Now, most of these items, the KCC has come to our properties to witness, investigate, and oversee the required repairs. When we and our neighbors bought these properties and built homes, there were only a few semi-functioning or non-functioning oil wells. On our 5 acres, there were no oil or injection wells, and none were proposed. Any oil activity occurring prior to 2013 was minimal and not invasive to the quiet enjoyment of our property, which I now know is a legal term. Now, there are 28 oil wells and 10 injection wells across the 160 acres. Multiple times a week, often several times a day, there are oil tankers and large water trucks driving across through the field, on the new oil road. And an employee of the oil operator drives his pickup truck through our fields every single day to check every single well. Okay, what's the next one? So this is the design on just 80 acres. There will be, on the 160 acres, there will be 64 new oil wells. At least this was his original plan. No, he hasn't gotten that far yet. 64 new oil wells and at least 42 new injection wells across the 160 acres. The black flags are oil wells and the gray flags are injection wells. Notice how you can't really see what's under the grid? Those are our homes, our lakes, our barns. So let me note that the mineral rights came with the purchase of the 10 acres of land we bought. However, if you purchase land and didn't write the lease yourself, and if the lease has no provisions and verbiage to protect future owners of the property. Owning the mineral rights gives you no say in the matter of the lease, except through a civil suit. The leases that are associated with our properties were from 1918. They specifically state, no well shall be drilled nearer than 200 feet to the house or barn now on said premises, without the written consent of the lessor. Our operator claims that this text, which happens to be the only text to protect homes and barns, only applies to the house that was there in 1918 and not anything that was built since. Our specific case is a trespass case. Once we knew the activity started, we researched and found no record that there was production in the first 5 years, so per the lease itself, it is void. Additionally, there was no record found of bank payments made to keep the lease alive. And we found no record associated with any of our property titles that indicate the leases are still valid. Since this activity started in 2013, we have engaged all levels of government, local, county, and state officials. I've personally made several attempts to gain support from the Kansas federal representatives as well. I even wrote a letter to the governor. The EPA, the Kansas Corporation Commission, and the Kansas Fish and Wildlife have all been contacted. Most of our communications have been with individuals who are very empathetic to our situation, but because there are no laws to protect us, there are no solutions for them to offer. Significant negative impact to our property value. I think we can all agree that is a loss. Our 10-acre lot, the one that now has a road, a tank battery site, a huge semi-truck turnaround, 4 oil wells and 3 injection wells, was worth $65,000 in 2012. As of 2014, it was appraised at $28,000. Wow. The value of our home from 2012 to 2014 dropped 8% due to the increase of oil influence in our neighborhood. So this is what has happened. So the whole grid that you saw earlier, this is just a portion of it. All of this was completely wooded before. All of these roads still exist, and they drive on them every day through the fields. There's 2 more here now.
Right.
This is the property that if any of you read about, the article that was in the paper about the family that was planning to build right next door to their parents. There's no place to build a house there now. So, the destruction of surface without compensation to the landowner, I'm pretty sure we'd all agree that is a loss. We weren't compensated for the use of our land, the actual surface. We weren't compensated for the use of it for the purpose of oil exploration and production. Over the years since purchasing the 10-acre property, we've discussed many options for its use. When he was little, our oldest son always said he was going to build a home right next door and take care of us when we were old. Really sweet. And since learning in 2010 that our youngest son has Pitt-Hopkins syndrome, we talked about what the future might look like for him. We talked about building a home right next door so he could always live near us. These dreams and plans are no longer an option. And contaminated water supply. That certainly would be a loss. Currently, there are no government agency tests conducted to confirm the safety of well water used for humans, livestock, or agricultural purposes, except at the expense of each individual landowner. And after being passed around to multiple agencies, our neighbor was told that the type of test required to determine the impact from oil production and injection fluids would cost upwards of $10,000. In late 2013, we filed an objection with the Kansas Corporation Commission. The oil operator had applied for approval to drill 6 more wells. These included wells to be located in the front yard and in the barn of one neighbor, and in the front yard of another, plus 2 more on our 10 acres. We learned there is a KCC regulation that states no more than 1 well can be drilled every 10 acres. However, exceptions to this regulation have been granted in 27 eastern Kansas counties, including Douglas, Franklin, Miami, Leavenworth, Eagle, Wyandotte, and Johnson County. You see, where there aren't specific laws in place, it is the regulator, in this case the KCC, who gets to make the rules, change the rules, and they're under their own authority to enforce the rules. Until just a couple weeks ago, the KCC had provided us with a small measure of protection. After our protest and hearing, they granted us 165 feet of protection from our homes, existing homes and barns, where no oil activity could commence going forward. However, as some of you may have read, as of November 7th, the KCC has reversed this ruling, stating that we've not provided sufficient evidence of damages or just cause for them to uphold their ruling. Remember just a few minutes ago when I mentioned all of the occurrences of leaks that have been reported to the KCC? They have their own files that show exactly this evidence. In one of the responses from our attorney to the KCC on this matter, he wrote, "And though much was made of the fact that there have been many exceptions to the 10-acre rule in the area where these leases are located, and that the KCC has allowed this practice to continue without granting exceptions numerous times in the past, this does not make it right, and amending the regulation at this late hour won't fix the problem that the KCC has allowed to continue unabated. In this case, the protestants purchased 10-acre lots for the purpose of building homes and improving the surface of their property. They were entitled to rely on the Kansas administrative regulations in existence at the time they purchased their land. To amend the regulation now to try to fix the problem, fixing the problem, or fixing it from an oil perspective, would amount to an unlawful taking of their property without due process of law and without compensation, in violation of Section 18 of the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of Kansas and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. At this time, there is no recourse to be taken by citizens to truly protest their homes, to protect their homes and properties. But it's not close to being over. The additional interest from folks like you in matters of the KCC not being friends with